All right, we got 5 historical misconceptions run down. This video is 13 years old, but it looks interesting. I wonder if the earth is still flat.
Number 5, Vikings.
If you tell me Vikings aren't these like big white guys with long beards and long braids with the helmets and armor and big battle axes that just are strong as hell, if you tell me that's not what a Viking is, I'm dead as gonna throw a tantrum. I'm gonna throw a fit. When I think of Viking, I think of like Thor. I don't know why.
Viking be without his trusty battle helmet and its impressive horns? The answer is a more historically accurate Viking. Think for a moment about what wearing headgear like that into battle would mean. The horns
It would make you look swaggy. What are you talking about?
are just easy targets for your opponent to hit and knock off your helmet. Or if you strap on your helmet, now your opponent has a convenient lever with which to drag you to the ground and something to hold on to while slitting your throat.
But that's the problem. You don't have to do everything with efficiency. You don't have to try to be the most optimal. You got to look the most swaggy, you know? When you work out, not that I work out because I don't. When you bench press, you don't got to do the perfect form. As long as you're doing that 95% or whatever, you're going to do good. You're going to do fine. That's why they wore the little horns.
Horned helmets are a terrible idea, which is why archaeologists have never found them at Viking battle sites, and there's no evidence that they were ever used. It was poets and artists, people not known for caring about facts and reality, who gave the Vikings their silly hats during the late 1800s, long after the Vikings could correct their misconceptions.
We got to be honest though, if we didn't see those horns, those made up horns on the hats, we wouldn't really care about the Vikings. That's why they got clout, because they have those horns, they have swag, they have something different, something unique about them. That's why they looked the part.
Number 4, Lady Godiva. The story of this
Lady Godiva? Like Godiva chocolate? Or Lady Gaga? I don't know who this is.
11th century English noblewoman is that her mean husband, the Earl, raised taxes on the townspeople of Coventry, which Lady Godiva, and not surprisingly the locals, thought were too high. She badgered her husband, and he conceded in exasperation to lower the taxes if she rode through the town naked, assuming that she never would, but she did. Because
What? Yo, can I show this? This is insane.
people don't like taxes, even though they're how civilization is purchased, Lady Godiva's story lives on, notably in the Godiva logo and in popular songs. But while Lady Godiva was a real person and Coventry is a real town, there's no record of her nude ride from the time when it happened, so we can safely assume the story is false. Just as with the Vikings, again, poets and artists are to blame who made up the tale long after Lady Godiva's death.
So it wasn't real, it was just a made up story? There was not a single witness? Why is there a creeper? I just noticed that.
Number 3, Napoleon. Famously, this tiny
Napoleon was a small guy, right? Napoleon Dynamite? Or is that a movie? Did he like dynamite? Is it a rumor that he wasn't that short? Or is that the myth that he was just like an average sized guy? I think it was like 5'6", right?
tiny general, perhaps to compensate for his short stature, took control of France, greatly expanded its influence, and dubbed himself emperor. Napoleon's official height was indeed 5 foot 2 inches, but at the time, French
Damn, that is crazy, bro. You are the size of a adult woman. At that point, like, what do you do at that point? You just gotta be a very powerful rich man if you're that short. Because think about it like this. People will say height doesn't matter, but if you're under like 5'6" as a man, height matters, but you could make up with it with money, success, status. So at the end of the day, height doesn't matter. But if you're an average Joe, height matters. A 6'5" dude that looks like the same attractiveness level as a 5'8" dude, 6'5" dude's getting way more girls, way more pull, way more attention just because they're tall. And being part of the people who are short, you know, I take pride in it.
inches were longer than English inches, so doing the unit conversion, Napoleon's height should have been reported as 5'7" in England's imperial
5'7" is still remarkably small. I've met some people who are 5'7". You're petite. You're a little person.
units, which is short by today's standards but was average or slightly above average in the early 1800s. However, England, with its eternal love of all things French, didn't care and went with the Napoleon is so short LOL version of the story in newspapers and cartoons. Meanwhile, Napoleon was busy
But that's what people do anyways today in the media. They hear something, they just make something about a person or a political figure or about somebody famous. They're just, oh, he's this, he's that. I mean, it makes sense that they just clown Napoleon for being a small guy, even if he wasn't that small. That's kind of how the media works. You lie about somebody to slander them and make a bunch of people believe a random fact that actually isn't a fact. It's just a lie.
introducing the metric system to France and the wider world to standardize measurements so this sort of confusion would never happen again. And thankfully, the whole world now uses metric. Mostly, sort of. Number 2.
You know, the whole world uses metric except for the USA because we are the best country in the world and we get to decide what system we use for measurements. Even though technically it might be bad, the only measurement I do like is Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit makes more sense in Celsius. You cannot change my mind on that. It makes way more sense in Celsius. 100 degrees hot, 100 degrees in Celsius, probably like you're in an oven.
Roman vomit. Ah, the Roman Empire, so great and
Never heard of this Roman vomit either. I just know the Roman Empire was taken down and powerful or something.
powerful but corrupted by decadence from within. And what could be a better symbol of that decadence than the vomitorium, where Romans, after stuffing themselves with delicious foods, could vomit them all up again to make room to feast anew. Vomitoria are real,
That's not how that works.
but this idea of them is not, though the confusion is understandable because their name, Vomitorium, seems to make their purpose so clear. Even if for some reason you know Latin, perhaps because you live in a country that insists you waste hundreds of hours of your life learning a dead, useless language, this knowledge still won't help you because the root word vomitum means to spew forth. So what is it really? If you've ever been to a big stadium like, say, the ones made by the Romans, you've already used a vomitorium.
To spew forth does mean vomit because you're spewing dirty food or whatever from your intestines.
This is what the vomitoria are, the passageways that let lots of people enter or exit at once. The people are what spews forth in the vomitoria, not the contents of the people. Number 1. Columbus.
Okay, that's just like plain linguistic games. Nobody cares. Columbus? Christopher Columbus, what did he do? He sailed the 7 seas. He took over like India or something. That was somebody else. That was not India. They thought it was India, but it was like California or something. No, Christopher Columbus took over Africa. I don't know. He sailed like 18 different seas. He sailed across countries. I don't know exactly what he did, but he probably had some swag to him.
They're so very much wrong with the common retelling of the story of Christopher Columbus that it's hard to know where to begin. But the biggest misconception is that everyone else thought the world was flat, but Columbus was the only guy smart enough to know that it's round.
I've never heard of this misconception that everybody thought it was flat while Columbus thought it was round. Wasn't Columbus around like in the 1400s? Didn't they discover the earth was round in like 2 BC or like years and years and thousands of years ago? There was like villages and tribes and colonies and groups of people in different like continents and countries that already knew before Columbus even existed that it was round. Like,
it makes a difference.
And by the way, if you think the earth is flat in 2025, I'm gonna give you some good advice. You should probably check into either a therapist's office, a mental asylum hospital. This is not funny. I'm being dead serious. There's no way you should still think that in 2025.
Story, but knowledge of a spherical Earth goes back to at least 5000 BC. That's 6,500 years before Columbus set sail. And that knowledge was never lost to Western civilization. In 200 BC, Eratosthenes calculated the Earth's circumference, and his estimate was still well known and being used during Columbus's time. The argument Columbus had with Queen Isabella was not over the shape of the Earth, but of its size. Columbus estimated the Earth was much smaller than Queen Isabella and her scientific advisors did, which was why he thought he could make it across the empty Atlantic to India. But Columbus's size estimate was wrong, again, just like Napoleon's height because of mixed up units. However, this mistake did send him west to become the first European to discover America. As long as you ignore
America, yay!
the hornless Vikings who beat him by 500 years.
Damn, I forgot about that. There are so many times when I wish I would have been born in an era where I could explore the ocean or I could explore a land that was undiscovered. Like, it's not fair. I'm in an era where everything's already discovered. Yeah, it's cool. We got cool technology, cool things to do, cool people, cool. We got money, we got cool jobs. But bro, I wanted to be one of the first person to discover what the moon was. You know, I wanted to be the first person to be dumb and say the earth is flat. That's not fair. I wanted to be the first person to be like the Aristotle or Plato. Why did they have to be born first and be held as these like philosophic gods or something? Like, I would have said those words too. Like, anyways, that was a cool video. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what your biggest misconception is that you learned and then you figured out was wrong. It could be any type of fact from any era, from anything, anywhere, all at once, everything, everywhere, all at once. That's probably a good movie. Anyways, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed, watch my other videos or just give me $1. I don't know.